Hello, and welcome to another episode of TaskHuman Talks. I'm your host and fellow wellness provider, Jamie Carroll. Today we have the amazing Kristen McKinzie. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. And Kristen is a Reiki master, meditation, and yoga teacher. Thank you, Kristen, for joining us.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be on.
Yay. So one of the things I want to jump in with is you talk a lot about the joy of expansion.
hmm
And in fact, you have your own brand that is called Joyful Expansion.
Yes.
What does that mean to you, and how are you helping people tap into their expansion?
Yeah. So the idea behind the joyful expansion was something I heard from a yoga teacher that I had many years ago. And she said this one thing at the end of a class, which just like stuck with me since then. And she said, every choice we make either constricts our spirit or expands it. And that was just something that was like one of those moments that you get like a light bulb. And I'm like, yes, this is how I want to live my life, right? Because we have choices every day. And yes, sometimes we have to do things that we don't love, or things are hard. Life is hard, right? But we always have choices, and we always have that choice to expand or contract. And so I feel like part of my purpose in life is to help others unlock that for themselves. That's part within themselves that can always like expand and grow. So that's kind of where the joyful expansion came from.
I love that. I feel like I'm kind of getting in a light bulb moment as well
Yeah.
with this. So, what would be so? I love that every choice either constricts or expands our spirit. So, what would be an example of something that might constrict
Sure.
or
Yeah.
a
So I
choice
think
that
it
would
could be
constrict?
anything. Sorry, my little blind dog is like bumping into my desk here.
Oh.
um, that could be anything, whether it's a job or a relationship, or
Okay.
let's like use a relationship for an example. So say you're with somebody and you've been with them for a long time and you love them, but it's just every time you're around someone, I love to like kind of stop and pause and see how you feel, because you can almost feel yourself like either closing in on yourself, like shutting off a part of you maybe, or opening up, feeling like I feel safe with this person. I feel like able to express myself. And so that can be something like that would be a good example of one.
I love that. Yeah, and as we head into 2021, I think that this is super important, even just
Yeah.
for people to begin thinking about choices. Like, what kind of choices are you making in your life right now? Are they constricting? Are they expanding?
Yeah. And so
That's
the funny
great.
thing that you brought up 2020 is going into 2020, that was like my word of the year, expansion, right? And my website's called The Joyful Expansion, but one of the lessons that 2020 taught me was that all expansion is not joyful. There's like really
Right.
hard expansion, and there's difficult and there's hard times, but I've grown and expanded in so many ways this year that I didn't think I was going to, or particularly enjoyed. But like looking back, it like, really made my life bigger in many ways.
I love that you just mentioned your word for the year because
Yeah.
as you're talking about this, I've been intentionally thinking about my word for 2021. And as we're having this conversation, I'm like, expansion. And I just
Yeah.
circled it because I'm like,
Yeah.
is this
Yeah.
the
It's like, be
one?
careful
So,
what you intentionally choose. Cause when I chose that last year, I was like, this is going to be great expansion. And I sure got expansion, but it's not always what you
right.
think.
Oh, that is so funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can dive into like words in a little bit too.
Yeah.
Theme words is what I like to call them.
Sure.
Um, but so as we let's kind of move on from that and talk about yoga. So you mentioned that yoga helped you after a year of intense loss and heartbreak. And I feel like
Mhm.
we're sort of I just dropped my pen. We're sort of coming to end of a year that has brought a lot of intense loss and heartbreak for a lot of
Yeah.
people, whether it's job, um, money, loved ones, people, I mean, lots of different things that people are
Yeah.
going through right now. Can you share this part of your story with us? Like, what was the loss and heartbreak that you experienced? And then how can we use yoga? Uh, how can yoga help us during these times right
hmm
now?
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah. So it was probably about 7 years ago.
Mhm.
And I don't really know, even looking back now, it's like hard for me to process because it was just one thing after another. So I lost in like a 12-month time span, I lost a cousin who was mostly like a brother to me to suicide. I lost a friend to suicide. My husband lost his grandma unexpectedly. Um, our dog got cancer and passed away. And then my uncle, the father of my cousin who committed suicide, died 10 months after his son died in like a tragic accident.
Oh, wow.
So it was like loss after loss after loss. And so many of them were like unexpected. Like to me, suicide is like, it leaves an echo, right? Because you're not, it's so oftentimes unexpected, or there's so many questions. It's like this echo chamber of like, what happened? Could I have done something, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like I went pretty much numb, right? It was like I just went through autopilot every day. I like went to my job. I, spent time with my husband. I did all the things, but it was just like I was numb. And I had already been doing yoga for a little while, but I hadn't been into it that long. And I remember one day I was sitting on the couch watching TV after work, just like numbed out. And I saw my yoga mat rolled up in the corner, and I hadn't practiced in like months. And I thought I should unroll my yoga mat. And I got this like fear. I was like, no, if I unroll that yoga mat, like all these feelings are going to come. And so this happened like night after night for probably like a week. I'd see the yoga mat and be like, I should really practice yoga. And then I'd be like, no. And finally, about a week after, I was like, I'm going to do it. And I thought what would happen is I would get on the mat and just feel all the feelings. And I did. But I can't really explain it, describe it, except to say like I unrolled the mat, I sat down, and I just felt like I could take a breath. Like this little square was like a safe space for me just to like step away and like be. And so I started practicing, and it was hard because a lot of days I would sometimes feel and cry, but it was like that little step I took, that little crack in the door. I was like, okay, I can like start to move. I can start to move through this now. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Do you think it was like really just getting present and then also moving your body that helped those emotions flow?
Yes. And the breath, because I think like,
Okay.
and before I started yoga, I always thought that was so silly. Like I went to yoga class, I'd be like, the teacher's telling me to breathe, like, duh, I'm breathing, like this is
Obviously.
stupid. But once you like get really intentional about it and start to actually experience the breath in different parts of your body, that can bring up so much emotion, but it can also sometimes bring up so much like resolution and process, and you can start to move those things. So yeah, for me, it was just the breath and the movement and just being present, because I had spent so much time just like numbing out. It was just like being present with where I was that day.
And I think so many people can probably relate to this right now. I know suicide has been
Yes.
up. I know multiple people who know people that have killed themselves, or even myself. I just had a friend from high school that I knew killed
Yeah.
himself last week. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of that going on. There's a lot of loss after loss after loss right now.
Yes.
And who knows what's going to be continuing throughout the next year as well. What is a way that we could, like a simple, do you have like a simple technique of how we could start to kind of process this that involves that yoga or movement of our bodies
Yeah.
and
So
breath?
I think even just something as simple as taking like 5 minutes out of your day just to sit. And I mean, I think oftentimes we're like, oh, we have to be doing yoga or we have to be breathing in this way. And all these practices are wonderful,
Mhm.
but sometimes literally all we can do is sit, right? And if that's
Yeah.
all you feel like you can do that day is sit there for 5 minutes with like no phone, lock yourself in the bathroom and just be with yourself, like that's just a start.
Love it. 5 minutes of being.
Being, yes. It's
That's
scarier than it
great.
sounds if you're not.
It is. It is. It can be hard too. It
Yeah, it
seems
can.
like, okay, I'll just sit there and, do nothing, but being with yourself is really, really, it's a practice in and of itself, like you
Yeah,
just said.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for sharing that story. And I want to touch base as well on you being a Reiki master,
Mhm.
because I love Reiki, as you know. What is Reiki?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, so it's an ancient healing modality. It was first discovered in Japan by a man whose name was Dr. Yusai. And so basically the essence of Reiki really just is a healing modality. So it's a hands-on, it can be done virtually. And basically it helps soothe the autonomic nervous system. So it kind of allows our body to relax, to release, and kind of just allow for our own self-healing and expansion.
Okay, awesome. I love that. And what does a typical Reiki session look like?
Yeah, so it depends. I pretty much do all my sessions virtually now, which I actually didn't think I would like, but in some ways enjoy doing them more because I feel like my clients are in their own home, in their own setting, so they often can
Yeah.
relax more.
Okay.
So it starts, I like to do, like you can do it over a phone, but I like to do Zoom if you can, just to have like that video, just to kind of like
Yep.
connect with the other person. So we usually start out just kind of talking. I kind of tell them what to expect from the session. I ask them if there's anything specific that they want me to focus on, or that, like something hurts, or they had like this stress in their day, or their knee hurts. And then we kind of go into a meditation. So I like to do usually just about 5 minutes of a guided meditation just to help them relax, especially if they've never done Reiki before. Because I know my first Reiki session, I was really nervous. I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
So I like
Right.
to do a nice relaxation meditation, and then you can either sit or lie down. And then basically we just go into the session. So I'm just sending that energy to your various spots in your body, just helping your energy flow. We usually do that for around 30 minutes, and then I let you know when the session is over. I close with the meditation, and then we usually spend about 5 to 10 minutes talking, just like anything that came up for them, anything that I want to relay to them. And then sometimes I'll give them like specific meditations or specific things to do after the session.
I love that. And now, typically, Reiki was done in person with hands on, right? So
Yeah.
you're hands on the person. And
Yes.
you probably get this question a lot. I know I do as a Reiki master as well. How effective is it to do the Reiki virtually when you don't have the hands-on contact with someone?
Yeah.
Are you still able to get the same effect?
Yeah, I think in some ways, from what I've seen personally in my practice, some ways it can be more effective just because I feel like, again, like I said before, the client or the person is often more relaxed and they're in their own environment and they're more willing to receive. And so we still have that connection beforehand, like I'm seeing them like I would be seeing
Right.
you. I'm still doing all the steps. And it's just kind of like I like to liken it to like prayer. Like people ask for prayers if someone is in pain or hurting,
Yes.
like send a prayer, right? That's just as powerful, whether you're in the room with them or halfway across the world, sending that prayer or loving thought. So I kind of think it's like the same thing.
I love that. And what can Reiki be used for? Like,
Mm,
so what
yeah.
kind of things?
Gets me so excited because it's like so much. Reiki can be
I
used for
know, yeah,
so
it's like
many things.
everything.
Everything. So something just as simple as relaxation, it can improve sleep, it can boost your mood. I think it's really good for like mental health and helping the mood. And then it can go way beyond that. You can really get into some, if that's what you're looking for, you can really get into some, like buried traumas or even like physical ailments. I've worked with a lot of those things. So it's just like a plethora of things that Reiki can help with. And interestingly enough, I just read an article, I'll have to find it, but they're actually in some of the larger metro hospitals, they're allowing Reiki practitioners into the labor and delivery rooms. And then mom and baby can get Reiki after birth, which I think is just amazing. I would love, love, love to be a part of something like that.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I'll
love
see if
that.
I can find the article.
Yeah, that would be great. I use Reiki for addiction and
Mm,
healing addiction to alcohol. So that was
yeah.
really powerful for me. How do
Yeah.
you use it in your own life?
Yeah. So I started up a practice. I do Reiki every night on myself before I go to bed. To me, that's just the most powerful. It kind of like helps me calm down before bed. And then I also use it throughout my day. Like if I'm feeling especially anxious, I'll use it. Or have something going on, or if I just feel off or I have pain, I use it all the time.
That's amazing. What can people expect after a session? Like,
Mhm.
how are we going to be feeling after a
Yeah.
Reiki session is complete?
So I think it depends person to person. To the most popular, the what I mostly see is sometimes immediately after, people will either have a real upsurge in energy or they'll get really tired. So I always tell them, like, right after your session, drink a lot of water. If you can have extra time to rest, take that, go to bed early that night. You know, maybe do some gentle yoga if you can. Usually the next day and then the following days after, they have a lot of increase in energy. Their mood feels really good, things like that.
I love that. Um, what do you say to people who don't believe in like the
Yeah.
energy of Reiki, or like that's woo woo, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I
That's
don't
a little bit too woo woo.
Yeah, I don't think that's silly because I actually, it took me a long time. I was raised in a very Catholic family.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing at the time was kind of considered like weird or woo woo or almost bad.
Right.
So, once I get into yoga, all those things, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. It isn't what I thought it was. But I was still resistant to Reiki for actually a long time. I had a friend who got it and she was like raving about it and raving about it and telling me how I needed to go. And I just kept like being like, maybe next month. I don't know if that's for me. And because I was nervous, I was afraid, I didn't
Yeah.
know what it was. And so I can't remember what the tipping point was, but I finally went and I got a session. I was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So I guess how
Yeah.
I would explain it is that, right, we all know we're made up of energy. That's like nothing new. And so how I kind of like to describe it is like when you have your phone and your phone is like on 2% battery, it's drained. You go and you plug it in, right? And the electricity
Mhm.
recharges your phone. So that's kind of how I explain Reiki. It's like our human body and our energy levels, we can get run down, we can get blocked, we can get stressed, we can get to like 0%. And Reiki
Mm.
is really just kind of like plugging back into that electrical socket and like helping us recharge. And it's as simple as that. There's no like spirits involved or it's just literally the
Witchy things.
energy.
Yeah.
Witchy, it's just literally the energy that's around us and in us and available to us. We're just kind of like allowing our body to receive it.
That's great. So, what if people, or have you ever worked with people who are skeptical about it and like, well, I don't know if I believe this, but I'm interested. Like,
Yeah, my
can you be
husband.
skeptical and still receive the benefits of the Reiki?
Yeah, my husband. So when I started, so after I got my first session, I just like loved it. And so
Yeah.
I started receiving it regularly and then I started training in it. So there's different levels of training you can get up to master level, which is what I am. But it took me probably about 6 to 8 months to complete the entire thing. So after you get your first level, you practice on so many people, so many
Mm-hmm.
times. And so my husband was like there. So I was like, can I practice on you? And he
Right.
was like, sure, but he did not believe it. He's like, yeah, do your woo woo witchy stuff on me, but like, I'm just going to lay here. And it was funny because I would do it and I'd be like, how was it? And he'd be like, oh, it was fine. And then he'd just go about his business. And about a month into this, he came to me and he was like, do you think you could do that Reiki thing on me? Like my back's been really hurting and I like notice I feel better after you do that. I was
Oh
like,
my
yeah, I can do
gosh, I
that
love
Reiki
it.
thing to you. So
And
now
that's the great thing about Reiki.
he'll ask for it
Yeah.
often. I'm like, yeah, I can give you that Reiki thing.
That's amazing. And Reiki can be used for physical pains, it can be used
Yeah.
mental, emotional, spiritual. So it really encompasses a lot of the different facets of what people may be going through or experiencing.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Um, do you have any success stories
Yeah.
about
So
these
I have
benefits?
one that actually just happened this past week. So a client of mine who I see frequently, she just had a baby recently. He's about 2 months old. And she texted me one day and said, she's like, I don't know what's going on with him. He has like such a happy baby, always calm, always happy. And she said, today, I cannot figure out what's wrong. He doesn't have a fever. He's like, everything else is normal, but he seems like he's in pain. He's crying. He'll wake up crying. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. I called the pediatrician. They said, just watch him because he doesn't have a fever or
Yeah.
anything. And she's like, could you give him a Reiki session? So I said, of course. Um, And so I gave him a Reiki session, and she called me 2 hours later. So this was like, we didn't do a Zoom call for this. She just said, when you have time today, could you give him a Reiki session? And I said, sure, I'll do it later. But we didn't have like a set time. So I had some time, probably about half an hour after her phone call. I sat down, sent him the Reiki. And probably about 3 hours after that, she texted me and she said, did you give Jax Reiki? And I said, yes, I did. And she said, he has been sleeping for the past 2 hours. He hasn't cried since then. And she's like, he seems so much more happy. And the next day he woke up and was like back to his happy self.
I love
So that made
that.
me feel so good, because I was like, oh, little baby.
I love that. That's great. Now, one of the things you just mentioned was not even being on a Zoom with someone. So you
Yeah.
can, how do you send Reiki to someone when you're not even on a call with
Yeah.
them?
So, I mean, again, it's kind of like, just, I always like, if I don't connect with you via Zoom, and if I've never met you before, I always like to see like a picture of you or something.
Okay.
Like, I know what he
Yeah.
looks like. I've actually met him before. So I
Okay.
kind of just like focus on that person, or and tap into their energy, and then like just send it virtually. I guess it's
Wow.
like kind of hard to describe.
Yeah. And how long do you spend on that when you're doing
Yeah,
kind of
so
this
that really
Reiki work?
varies. And I think it kind of depends on the person and what their needs are, and everybody's so different. When they do a Zoom session, it's usually scheduled for 45 minutes to an hour, but that also includes like the meditation before and after. So I would say, for him though, he's just a little baby. His was probably about 20 minutes is what I spent.
Okay, that's awesome. I
Mhm.
love that. And it's meditation. I guess meditation is kind of, you weave that into your Reiki sessions as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
Okay. Do you ever incorporate yoga with Reiki and meditation too?
Yeah, yeah, you can do that as well. And I've been to some beautiful yoga classes, like in the studios where they do that. And that's always like an amazing experience when you're like as a collective. But yes, you can definitely do that. And sometimes it's really nice if you do a Reiki session and then maybe some yin yoga afterward, because
Okay.
sometimes if your body is tired, just some really nice, like releasing poses, like legs up the wall, stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. Can people do Reiki for themselves, or do you have to be working with a provider in
Mhm.
order to experience the benefits?
Yeah, I mean, you can do Reiki for yourself. So, I mean, obviously you wouldn't know how to do it unless you
Right.
ever like had a session or had training in it. But like I was talking about earlier, I've done all the training and I do Reiki on myself every single day. So yeah, you can definitely give yourself the benefit of Reiki.
I love that. But for people who are like, wait, like I'm interested in Reiki, I want to learn more. Can I just do this for myself?
Mm.
Why would they need to work with a provider?
Oh, yeah. So basically, because I have been trained, right? So I've
Yeah.
been through everything. I mean, it's a pretty in depth. Like I said, I think it took me 6 to 8 months. And in between there, before I started like seeing clients, like paid clients, I practice on like everybody I knew,
Yeah.
friends, family, because you have to, it's like anything, you have to hone your craft and hone your skill.
Yeah.
It's like becoming a yoga teacher, or anything, you have to practice and learn, and it's a whole experience. So yeah,
And the
definitely.
attunement that you receive in the training as well, like it has a lot to do with the attunement. So you're tuned to the higher energies as a provider as
Correct, correct.
well.
So each
I
level
think.
you
Yeah.
go through, you get an attunement. Yes.
That's amazing. Awesome. I love it. Great. And so on the TaskHuman app, you're working with clients, I guess, using Reiki, because obviously TaskHuman is as well, the video. So you
Yeah.
can do Reiki sessions. Are you doing like yoga and meditations with people as well? Like, how are
Yeah.
you helping people on the app?
Yeah. Yep. So I'm offering yoga, Reiki, and meditation. Yeah. So
Okay.
all three. So you could do one at a time or all together if you
Yeah, I was going to
wanted.
say, like, combine them too. That
Yeah.
sounds like that would be a great session. And
Mhm.
again, people can use it for like even just kickstarting off 2021 or getting clear on things that they want, starting with fresh energy to get them
Yes.
to the year. Reiki can be really, really great for that as well. Love
Yes.
it. Okay, and so you do some breath work too. And I was wondering, speaking of kickstarting off 2020 and the new year that is coming up, Is there a meditation or even a little bit of Reiki that you could lead us through now that we could do? Maybe like 5 or so minutes together?
Yeah. So I love that it's like a short meditation that will kind of I can infuse like at the beginning and the end as we're going through it with some Reiki. And so it's super simple. You may have probably heard this meditation before, but I just love it. And I think it's like a great kickstart to like a new year and a fresh start. So
Okay.
let's do it.
Awesome.
Okay, so wherever you are, you can just find a comfortable seat or lay down. And then once you're situated, maybe just rock back and forth for a few breaths, roll your shoulders, rock your neck back and forth. Just kind of find a comfortable position. And then slowly begin to still your body. Close down your eyes. Begin to bring your awareness to your breath. Just notice it right now as it moves in and out of your body. Good. Let your jaw relax. Pay attention to your tongue. If it's at the roof of your mouth, let it release down. On your next breath, take a deep inhale. And on the exhale, open your mouth, allow all that air out. Good. One more deep inhale. Open mouth, exhale. Just begin to imagine yourself sinking deeper into whatever you're sitting or laying on, the ground, the bed, the chair. Just feel your limbs getting heavier and softer. One more inhale and exhale. Good. And now in your mind, I want you to imagine that you're opening a door and stepping into a room that is flooded with light. It's a big space. It has floor to ceiling windows, and the sun is shining in every one of the windows. And the space is empty except for two big comfy chairs in the middle of the room that are facing each other. And you walk into the room and it's warm. You feel the sun hit your face. And you walk to the center of the room and you sit in one of the chairs. And now I want you to bring to mind someone you love. Just the first person that comes to your mind. And now I want you to imagine that person walking into the room and sitting in the chair across from you. And they smile at you and you see the love in their eyes. And then you send them the following thoughts. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. May you be free. And then that person gets up and they walk out of the room. And now I want you to bring somebody to mind that's maybe an acquaintance, maybe a coworker, the barista you see when you go to Starbucks every day. Again, just the first person that comes to mind. And then imagine them walking into the room and sitting across from you. And you look them in their eye and you send them the following thought. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. May you be free. And then that person gets up and leaves the room. And now I want you to bring to mind someone that you're maybe struggling with, maybe someone that's hurt your feelings, that you have a hard time connecting with. And I want you to imagine them walking into the room and sitting in the chair across from you. And if you can, send them the following thoughts. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be at peace. May you be free. And then that person gets up and they walk out of the room and close the door. Take a deep breath in. Open mouth, exhale, let it out. Feel yourself sitting in that big comfy chair. And now the chair directly across from you disappears. And in its place is a giant full-length mirror. And you can see yourself in this mirror. See yourself sitting in the sun-filled room. And you lean forward and you look yourself in the eye. And you send yourself the following thoughts. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. May I be free. Then you can slowly let go. You get out of the chair. You walk out of the room. Come back to your body. You breathe in, feeling your chest expand, and you breathe out. And then when you're ready, you can slowly blink your eyes open. Move your fingers and toes, roll your shoulders back.
Oh, I love that.
Good.
That was great.
Good.
That was great. I got an intuitive hit to ask you. I think I already know what the answer is going to be, but is there ever a situation where you wouldn't recommend someone doing a Reiki session?
Wouldn't recommend them doing a Reiki
Yeah.
session? Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's different, right? So I guess it's just like your comfort level.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know why I got the intuitive hit to ask that. I love that meditation, and I think that Reiki can be so beneficial for so many people. And you know, and so I just think, yeah, I think that if you're listening to this, and that if you're interested or you're curious or you want to learn more, you're not sure if it's for you, um, to reach out and find Kristen on the TaskHuman app, because yeah, I think that Reiki can be used for so many things, and even if you're not ready for the energy piece of it, you
Yes.
could always do something like that meditation. That meditation was
Yeah.
really powerful, and just starting with something as simple as that
Yeah.
and getting into that space can be a really powerful first step to wanting to receive and being willing and ready to receive more of the energy that is associated with Reiki.
Yeah. And I think too, like what I was saying before, like it took me months before I was ready. And so just listening to your own self, like I was already practicing yoga and I was already doing meditation, and I just wasn't ready, and I just knew that, and so I trusted myself, right? And so like when the
Yeah.
time is right, you'll know. And so if it's something you feel uncomfortable with, there's so many other things you can do. If you don't just want
Yeah.
to jump in, if you just want to like dip a toe in, which is what I did. I just like dipped my toe in
Yeah,
and then dipped my
exactly.
other toe in. You don't have to just jump in.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
I think
wait.
during
You
that
can wait,
meditation,
man.
yeah, I think during that meditation, I was thinking like, this is a great place for people to start. And that's why I think maybe that
Yeah.
question came up of like, is there ever a time that Reiki wouldn't be recommended?
Yeah.
And I mean, even for me, I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, unless someone just really just wasn't into it, like they just
Yeah.
didn't want the energy behind it. But starting with something like this meditation or something like a meditation, I'm
Mhm.
losing my headphones.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and the other thing about
so,
Reiki too, which what I was nervous about in the beginning, especially coming from a really religious background, when I didn't really understand it, is like the energy behind Reiki is only loving energy. It's only love and kindness. There's no like negativity or bad, like it's the Reiki itself comes from like this universal love, right? Like there's nothing bad that's going to come with it. And so just like being reassured about that made me feel good when I went to my first session, like that this is like coming from a very loving place, you know.
Yes.
So like that
Yeah.
helped, that comforted me a little when, especially your first time, it's like, because Reiki it's hard to sometimes explain exactly what it is
Mhm.
until you experience it. So it can be like
Exactly.
a little nerve wracking, like, well, what exactly am I doing? You know?
Right.
Yeah. So just
Yeah.
realizing that like the energy behind it is only good and love.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that's what made me think of it too, because that meditation is like
Yeah.
you're loving everybody, right? You're
Right. What
sending
you're
that
sending.
good
Yeah. It's
energy
sending
to
the
everyone.
love. For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Kristen. This is great. I've
Yeah.
absolutely enjoyed our talk today, and I hope everyone listening has as well, and that you've learned a little bit more about what energy work and Reiki is, and you know, with the year we've had, how you might be able to just take that 5 minute pause and let your emotions come with any sort of loss that you've experienced, and yeah, and just allow yourself to be with it, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
Yes.
So yeah, any last minute words or tips or techniques or anything that you want to share with us before we jump off?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I think just a reminder that we could all use. I mean, especially me this year too. Like, and when we were talking about mental health and suicide, it's like all
Mhm.
this isolation can really get to
Yeah.
everyone. And it got to me. And just this conversation, just sharing this is just such a powerful reminder to myself and then also to you. Like, we are never alone. Like, that sounds
Mhm.
cliche, but like, here we are. We have TaskHuman. We have an app that allows us to connect with other people to still receive these things. And that can be so powerful. And like I said, like when I first started Reiki, I never thought I'd be doing it virtually. And now I love doing it virtually. So there's still people out there who care about you and who are here to support you. It just might be in a little different way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And that's the task human was is for that. Like you said, Kristen, I love that because we want to have that human connection with you. So we're
yes,
not just going to send you a bunch of messages, which we will might we maybe will send you a message, but we want to see you. We want to connect with you and get that face to face interaction via the
yeah,
app
yeah,
and use it in that way. So definitely try us out if you haven't yet.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Kristen.
Bye.